Take a look at that. Now that is beautiful. In today's video, guys, we are going to be cutting this massive pile of beautiful Montana agate. I've got some really special pieces in here, some pieces that I've been wanting to cut for a long time. I'm excited that you're here to come along for the process. Let's take a look at what we're cutting, and I've already got one in the saw that's finished. Okay, let's check this out. So this is a kind of a banded quartzy agate. I think we need to clean these off and take a closer look. Okay, so I figure we're gonna do this in batches. You can see I've already got a few more that I've cut just to get things warmed up. But here's that first agate off the saw, and I just cut a slice right across the face. Now there's some really subtle fine banding in there, as well as this really cool little geode pocket in the middle. A little fractured. And there's the larger piece. This one I'm definitely planning to polish, and it's probably going to end up posted on my Etsy site at some point. Let's take a look at a couple more of these. All right, take a look at this one. This one's almost got a little blue to it. Very fractured, but it's got some moss in there. I tell you, cutting Montana agates is always a surprise. You never know what you're gonna get inside of these things. This is actually one that Alina found just this past weekend on a float trip. It's very clear, but you can tell it's got some structure in there. I think that's the best slice. It's got a really cool banded quartz pocket in there. Take a look at that slab I cut off of this thing. Really pretty. You know, these clear agates kind of get a bad rap because they're not the classic moss agates, but man, I still think they're gorgeous. Okay, we got a couple more here. This is a fun one. Okay, this is a fun one. Take a look at that. Beautiful moss agate. Again, there's a little bit of fracturing in there. Some really beautiful white color. And some of that gorgeous orange banding as well. Gosh, that is beautiful. And we've got more like this. I'm not gonna get this one wet. Pretty classic, just sort of clear Montana agate there. This is another one that wasn't quite as exciting. I actually was, how was it? I was pretty hopeful for this one because it had this kind of funky thing on the top. It's mostly just quartz. I think this side is still pretty unique. And then we'll save the best for last here. This side, you could tell it has some subtle banding, and it's unfortunately got a really large fracture in there. But this I thought turned out really cool. So the cut actually is including part of a fracture line, and inside of the fracture line you can see that the banding pattern is essentially sort of colored. And so my hope is that I can polish this, preserving that. But I thought that turned out really cool. Okay, well that's kind of a fun start. Now we just get to go through this pile and cut for like several days in a row. So let's pick our next victim. So many choices. You know what? I think I'm gonna go for it. I really wanted to cut one of these bigger. I found several of these really nice Montana moss agates when I was out hunting on Glendive last year. I'll link to that video right here if you want to see some of those. But let's get this one in the saw. I think it'll turn out really nice. Let me show you what it looks like when it's wet. Yeah, I think this is going to be pretty epic. All right, we got this baby ready to cut. And we are using the Highland Park 12-inch slab saw. This thing's a beast. Let's get it cutting. All right, this one should be done. Pretty excited about this. Ooh, wow, look at that. My goodness. That is beautiful. Let's go ahead and get this bigger piece out. Y'all ready? Oh my goodness. All right, I gotta go ahead and get this thing out of the vise. All right, here it is, guys. Take a look at that. Unfortunately, fairly fractured. But a really, really cool piece. Got this all set here. Okay, well, I think we are done with our second round of cutting here. Finished with a pretty excellent quartz agate, which I cut a couple slices off of. So we're gonna open this one up and then we're gonna take a look at what we've got to this point. All right, here we are. I actually cut this one last night. Take a look at that. Now that is beautiful. Okay, so we'll put this over here. And then we gotta take a look at this piece. Wow, look at that. That is just gorgeous. Let's go ahead and pull it out of the vise. That is really beautiful. Jeez. Okay, so well, let's go ahead and show you what all I've cut up to this point. Okay, well, let's go ahead and start with this one. So here was the first piece. And I cannot wait to polish these and make specimens. I think these will turn out really nice. Here is the other end piece. I think those turned out super cool. But the slabs honestly might be the coolest. So there's slab number 1, and I love the little moss dendrites around the outside, and the quartz is just gorgeous. Pretty incredible. I think this might be my favorite though. There's a real beautiful Montana agate slab. Super cool. Next up, we've got some waterline action. Let's go ahead and get this wet. All right, here's our waterline piece. I never get tired of these. Take a look at that. I mean, honestly, I think it kind of speaks for itself. And I just wanted to put a small cut across the face because I'd like my specimens to have weight to them. And I think this one is going to polish up really nice and make a beautiful specimen that I have to decide if I'll put it on Etsy or if I'll hold on to it for a bit. All right, got this one here. This one was a pretty, like, you know, nondescript agate from the outside, but cutting it open, jeez Louise. I mean, look at the moss in there. Look at the banding patterns. Unfortunately fractured, but you know, honestly, I'm becoming to be of the opinion that fractures give some of these agates more character. Take a look at that. Okay, we got a couple more here to take a look at. Here's another one. I guess we can orient these properly. You know, and again, some of these you just can't even tell. This one ended up being more of a dud. There's definitely some elements that are pretty, but and there's some interesting color in there too. Probably one that'll end up getting tumbled. Okay. This was a very host rock covered agate, which again, there's a lot of uncertainty that comes with that. And I actually think it turned out pretty cool. The host rock really penetrated deeply in there. And again, that's usually more of a basalt and not a whole lot in the way of moss or anything like that, but still kind of a fun piece. All right, and then we got this one as our last one here. Let's go ahead and get that wet. All right, here we go. So take a look at this. I believe we got ourselves another tube agate here, but you can tell there's actually some moss, and there's actually some very subtle banding around some of the tubes as well. I think this one turned out really nice. And you can see there's even some moss around the outside. Super cool. And I believe I already showed you guys this one, but let's take another look, because why not? This was definitely the one that I was most excited to cut. Beautiful moss agate. Unfortunately, quite fractured. I may actually end up putting another cut across it to see if I can get through these fractures here. But man, gorgeous. Just so fun to see, you know, and this is the high grade stuff that people are coming for right there. I mean, that's just stunning. Okay, well, the time has come, I believe, for the grand finale. I don't think I'm going to be able to get through quite as many as I thought because it's actually fairly time consuming to work through these, but So I picked out 6 more amazing agates to cut. We're gonna work our way through them. Let me show you what we're working at here. Okay, here they are, in no particular order. These 5 here are all from my trip to Glendive last year. You can see there's definitely some really beautiful high-grade moss agate here. These 2 pieces are similar, and I'm gonna have to figure out how to cut these. Take a look at that, gorgeous. This one's a bit more of a mystery. It's a really, I mean, it's a full nodule and it hides its secrets well, but you can see there's definitely some banding type patterns in there. So I'm honestly thinking we're just gonna put a slice right through the middle of this thing and see what happens. And we're probably gonna take a similar approach for this one, although I may end up doing a little bit more slabbing. Then this one, which I think is gonna be our next piece, is actually from last weekend's video. And my goal is to try to put a cut right down the middle to expose more of this quartz pocket and be able to polish a couple specimens out of it. And also preserve this druzy pocket on this side. So let's go ahead and get this one in the saw. Okay, we got this thing set up and it actually might be a little too tall for my saw, so we may need to end up finishing it off with the trim saw, but we'll see. One little trick I started using recently, I started cutting some of these little wood, just scrap wood pieces to help reinforce my pieces in there, and it's really helped make my cuts more secure. So there's my little pile that I keep next to the saw, just for these irregularly shaped pieces. It really helps a lot. All right, let's cut this bad boy. Okay, we got this one cut. I actually had to end up using the trim saw to cut the last maybe ½ inch because it's so long. Now we are gonna get ready to put a couple slices in this piece. I think I'm gonna make one cut and then try to get a slab off of it before leaving a bigger specimen on there. So I'm curious to see how this one's gonna turn out. All right, that should be about perfect. Let's get this one cutting. And while that is going, I wanted to show you guys a new item I'm gonna be listing here on the Etsy store. I've got 2, and I'm planning to pack 2 more of these. These are gonna be cutting boxes from the Yellowstone River. This assortment of agate, petrified wood, mostly larger pieces. I'm also got some jaspers in there. And it's kind of a mixture of qualities. I honestly just kind of did a random grab bag from my ridiculous supply. And I'm gonna be listing these up on the site the same day that this video comes out. If you're interested in getting some Yellowstone River material for yourself to cut, this is a great opportunity to do it, and also to support the channel at the same time. If you're interested in taking a look at the Etsy store, the link is gonna be down in the description of this video. All right, we are set for our last piece for this video. I definitely saved the best for last. I've got it set up here in the saw. Let's get this beautiful agate cutting. Before we do, there she is. I think it's gonna turn out pretty amazing. All right, let's get started. The first one that we cut was this geode agate from last weekend's hunt. And I gotta tell you, it turned out a little unexpected. Take a look at that. Now what's really interesting here is all of that green and red material that has worked its way into the agate. I don't know what to call that, and honestly, I've never seen that before. I was actually hoping that the geode would push a little further into this piece, which it didn't. It's a little bit of a bummer. Oh man, this is dirty. But you get the general idea. I still think it would be a really neat piece to polish. It just wasn't quite up to my hopes that I had. Okay, next, I put a new slice across this piece, hoping to get rid of some of those fractures. You could tell I was unsuccessful. Again, it's still just gorgeous. It was worth a shot. Okay, where do we go next? I think, I want to say this one was next here. This is one of our big moss agates from Glendive. I'm gonna get this wet here real quick. Let's take a look at these sort of one by one. This piece was stunning. I mean, it's got some really gorgeous black and orange banding with some moss around the outside. It's a really cool piece. And here's a slab that I cut. You can really see through those orange bands, which I think is just gorgeous. And then here is the other side of that. I'm hoping to make some specimens out of these. Even though they're fractured, I think they'll turn out real nice. Okay. This big boy, which I found in Glendive. Oh. It was actually a little too big for the saw. Also, a little below my expectations. I could tell that there was some very subtle banding in there, but I thought it would be a little bit more vivid. It's still really cool. All of these pieces are fairly fractured, and I'm beginning to realize just how much that can really make or break some of these pieces, especially when you're looking at them from like a lapidary and polishing standpoint. Okay, we got two more. Let's take a look at this guy to get this wet real quick. So another Glendive agate. I think it's got a really cool shape and pattern to it, honestly. It's gorgeous. I wanted to see if this was something that I could cut into somehow, but I feel like the banding probably only goes a little ways into that. And here's a couple of the slabs that came off of it. You can see they broke there. Got enough though to maybe make a cab out of each of these, I would say. And then here is another slab off of it. How cool is that? Ooh, beautiful. Okay, and then the last one, which was kind of funny, I put this one into the slab saw, and I don't know what happened. It kind of rode up the vise, but I didn't get a full cut on it. And then I tried to take it over to the trim saw, but the trim saw is being a little weird. But take a look at this. Also fairly fractured, unfortunately, but I mean, geez. Look at the blue and those moss dendrites. Oh, just gorgeous. Got to figure out if some of these are worth trying to cut again to put another slab through. And so concludes our Montana agate cutting extravaganza. I gotta say that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work, actually, a surprising amount of work, but it was really fun to see inside of some of these agates that I've been wanting to cut for a long time. I do have some new polishing equipment coming in soon, so I'm hoping to be able to polish some of these bigger pieces here in the next maybe month or so. So keep your eyes open on the Etsy store. Don't forget that I'm gonna be putting some of these bigger Montana Yellowstone River mixed cutting boxes up on the site as well. Keep your eyes out for that. And don't forget to like, subscribe, leave me a comment letting me know which piece was your favorite. I'll be very curious to hear what you say. And of course, I appreciate any constructive criticism or feedback on these lapidary videos because it is something I'm trying to work on. Thanks for your support as always. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers out there, and I'll see you guys again next time.